Greetings and salutations to all of my beautiful circus monkeys out there. And hello to all the freaks, geeks, and gaffs who are not yet subscribed to our channel. I'm Dr. Drake, and today I've brought you another talking head video because I know how much you love boring old narrative essays where I blather on in stream of consciousness about various and sundry circus-related topics. But lo, this video shall be different. Today, I come bringing you something new.
And I come back to you now, at the turn of the tide.
We all have our heroes. All of us have people who have influenced us throughout our lives. Whether it be George Washington, Danica Patrick, Doc Holliday, or Naruto Uzumaki, real life and fictional people of greatness have an impact on us and how we grow into the strange creatures we are today. As you can imagine, someone involved in the circus sideshow circuit is going to have some interesting and eccentric influences. Dedicating your life to this profession means following in the footsteps of greatness and standing on the shoulders of giants. So sit back, have a snack, grab a drink, while I reveal some of the biggest influences on my life as a circus showman. I have to start off this list with P.T. Barnum, for obvious reasons. Nobody in this biz can claim that they haven't been somehow impacted by the man who shaped and formed this entire industry as we know it. From the humblest roustabout to the most glamorous daredevil, and from the hobo clown to the glitzy ringmasters, everyone in the circus can owe much of what they do to the man, the myth, the legend, Phineas Taylor Barnum. Over 130 years after the greatest showman's death, Barnum still lives on in the spectacle he helped create. For me personally, Barnum represents everything to do right as a showman. The art of the humbug and the glitz and glam that he found that attracts the public to even the most mundane and unrealistic acts and oddities is something I myself am still striving to understand and apply to my craft. His mastery of press and media is something I don't think I'll ever be able to accomplish. Still, you can hear me quote him often, and easily see how my show is an homage to Barnum and everything that he has accomplished and helped create. As someone else who I think has influenced me a great deal in how I present my show and how far I push the envelope with some of my performances is Jim Rose. Rose's style of sideshow entertainment, an edgy over-the-top blend of sideshow performance art, rock and roll, and shock art, helped carry this art form into the 90s and beyond. Before then, people were growing tired of the same old cliched stuff on the same dusty midways. Rose took the circus sideshow to the stage and cranked up the volume to 10. It recaptured people's imaginations, and in a way, Jim Rose's show ushered in a new generation of performers and a new paradigm in the profession. No more were sideshows confined to the tents and corners of a fairground. Now they were in your face, live performances in arenas and theaters, sometimes even opening for bands like ICP and 9 Inch Nails. Though I like to keep my own show traditional, there's a reason you don't see many small sideshows on the fairgrounds of America anymore. And taking Jim Rose's prescription,
It's the lowest form of entertainment. Thank you for coming. Get the off my head.
I try to use whatever media is out there as a conduit to get my show out to as many people as possible, wrapped in a neat little package that will appeal to them. If that means being a little bit Coney Island and a little bit rock and roll, then go ahead and give me a leather top hat with a concho band and a killer riff to perform to. Jim Rose is proof that this profession doesn't die, it just evolves with the times. Al G. Barnes is another noteworthy hero of mine, only because we started out under similar circumstances. Barnes had little money in his pocket when he decided to become a showman, and in fact his first shows involved a small tent, a trick pony, a trained dog, and a phonograph. Yes, it was the OG dog and pony show. But through shrewd reinvestment of his profits and a keen eye for business, Barnes was able to grow his show into a 3-ring spectacle remembered to this day. I myself started out in this career by buying up $1,500 in circus equipment, props, costuming, and some sideshow gaffs, without being able to procure a penny in grants, loans, or funding from the government, banks, small business organizations, or private investors. I and my family built the exhibition of the bazaar into what it is today. Like L.G. Barnes before me, I hope that it will continue to grow and become something remembered long after my sad sack of bones is long gone. If I say the name Harry Keller, you'd probably say, who? Well, not if you lived around the turn of the century. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Keller was one of the most famous magicians alive. His shows awed audiences and laid the foundation for all the greats to come. Houdini called him America's greatest magician. Thurston, Blackstone, Copperfield, and others regard him as a direct inspiration and a great performer. To me, Keller represents the darker side of being a showman and performer, but not necessarily in a bad way. Beset by early failures, lack of funds, and poor luck, Keller developed a well-known habit of borrowing equipment, finagling free and cheap venues for his performances, and sometimes outright bait-and-switching his audiences, just to pay the bills. In his early struggles to keep his head above water, Keller was also accused of replicating the props and devices of other magicians for his own use, and over-embellishing his shows with decorations, lights, and set pieces to make up for a lack of genuine substance. Keller even had a nasty habit of saying abracadabra and poofing into the ether to avoid those pesky creditors. Why would I admire someone like Keller then? Because despite all of this, he became a world-renowned illusionist and the peer of some of the greatest magicians in history. He wasn't born into money. In fact, Keller was literally a homeless kid who became world-renowned through hard work, perseverance, and a willingness to bend the rules to put food on the table. Talk about bootstrapping it. So yeah, I see a little bit of myself in him. So by now, I know you all want to know my biggest influence, the one person I consider a personal hero. So here it is. Ward Hall. That name, that simple name to anyone who knows anything about sideshows, is one that evokes images of what it means to be a showman. Hall was king of the sideshows for decades, and for good reason. His career spanned over 70 years. Talker, showman, magician, performer, he did it all and more. Founder of the World of Wonder sideshow, Hall almost single-handedly kept this unique form of entertainment alive through the awful malaise period of the 80s and early 90s, when many shows folded and the public turned against the freak show and seemed to forget the marvel, magic, and mystique that lay just inside the tent. Like Jim Rose, Ward Hall was blessed with a talent for knowing what the public would want to see, and filled his show with new acts and new spins on age-old performances. He polished up all the old famous sideshow gaffes for a new generation, and pushed on, keeping the art of the sideshow soldiering through a time that otherwise would have almost certainly spelled the end for this entire art and profession. Unlike Rose, Hall kept the old ways alive too. He never gave up on the idea that a traveling tent show was the way to go, and that the classic arts of yesteryear could still be a draw. In the end, he was proven right. Ward Hall is everything I ever wanted to be in a showman, and I speak honestly and frankly when I say that many of us in this profession feel the same way. None of us can do it, of course. I doubt there's any showman or performer alive who can even come close to the raw talent, instinct, and dedication to the craft that Hall had. Few, if any, high school players can convince themselves they'll be the next Michael Jordan, and Little League baseball players always dream of being Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth one day. So it is with Ward Hall and the circus sideshow. Now that covers all of the real-life circus and sideshow personalities that have inspired, impacted, and influenced me in my own career in the sideshow industry. I do have a few fictional characters I've drawn inspiration from, especially when it comes to stage presence, aesthetic, and persona. If you've ever had the opportunity to come to one of our shows and see me on stage, I'm sure you've seen a bit of Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka in my mannerisms and sartorial selection. The kooky and tricksy yet endearing Wonka was a character I loved as a kid and continue to emulate as an adult.
There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination.
Hugh Jackman's portrayal of P.T. Barnum in the Disney film The Greatest Showman did much to set the bar for me on how a showman ought to look and present himself to the public. The fact that this movie came out only a couple of years before I started my own show means that when researching the circus and trying to figure out what it means to be a showman, I ended up watching this movie several times. And yes, I still have The Greatest Show and A Million Dreams on my own playlist. Rocky Rickaby, the felonious feline from the indie comic and web animation Lackadaisy, is definitely an inspiration to anyone who wants to be the center of attention and command an audience. With his boundless manic energy, loquacious and poetic command of the English language, and garish personality, the rum-running former circus performer and musician has managed to excite the classically trained actor in me and embolden me to be as zany and peacockish as I want to be on stage and screen. Max Medici, played by Danny DeVito in the 2019 film Dumbo, is another fictional character who's inveigled me as a ringmaster and showman. In the motion picture, Medici is the owner, manager, and ringmaster of a small traveling circus circa 1920. Struggling to make ends meet and having lost many of his performers to the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, Medici forges ahead, trying to find new attractions and make do with his threadbare equipment and ragtag group of performers. Neurotic, impulsive, and often unyielding and draconian, Max doesn't always make the best decisions for his show, but genuinely cares for his people and his business. By the end of the movie, the circus owner realizes that his performers can have ideas better than his, and more importantly, are in fact the family he always wanted. So there you have it. A list of real and fictional circus folk who have had an impact on my life and career in this business. No mere mundane manifesto of a history buff and cinephile. This goes to show that whether you need inspiration in your personal life or in your career, there's a veritable font of people out there who have been where it is that you think you need to go.
Have a pleasant journey, and don't be afraid to ask directions from someone who has already been where you think you need to go.
Emulating greatness and having a hero is the first step to becoming who you have it in you to be. It's always humbling to know that no matter what you're doing, somewhere, there is a brave man or woman who has forged the path through the dark forest of life that makes it that much easier for those who want to follow in their footsteps. I'm Dr. Drake. Thanks for watching.